In the dim light of a busy cafe, a mother is trying to catch a moment of peace. Her toddler, barely 3, is glued to a tablet screen, fingers dancing over animated characters. The sound of cheerful music fills the air, but there's something unsettling about this scene. For every laugh that comes from the screen, there's an absence, the absence of a warm, nurturing presence. Imagine what the little one might be missing: the laughter of friends, the touch of a parent's hand, the joy of unfiltered play. This is the world we live in today, where screens often replace face-to-face interactions. But let's take a step back. What does this mean for the emotional and psychological development of kids today? How does digital modernity, like social media, affect childhood attachment styles and relationships compared to what children experienced in previous decades? Let's dive into this. In past generations, children were surrounded by extended families and communities. Think of the bustling family gatherings, where cousins would run wild. Aunts would fuss over them and grandparents would share wisdom or perhaps just share a cookie or two. These interactions were not just fun, they were foundational. Children learned about trust, love, and security within these family dynamics. The nurturing environment fostered secure attachments, which in turn shaped how these kids would relate to others as adults. But what about today? Today, many kids grow up in a world where their primary caregivers might be more concerned with their smartphones than with face-to-face communication. While digital tools offer a plethora of opportunities for learning and connection, they can also create emotional barriers. Let's talk about attachment styles. Secure attachment, which forms when caregivers are responsive and nurturing, leads to healthy relationships in adulthood. But what happens when that nurturing is diluted by screens? Research shows that children who grow up with less face-to-face interaction often struggle with forming secure attachments. They might develop anxious attachment styles, where they are overly clingy or conversely distant. They might push people away or cling too tightly out of fear of abandonment. In a recent study, the Bucharest Early Intervention Project highlighted some stark realities. Kids raised in institutions, often with one caregiver for up to 15 infants, displayed an average IQ in the low 70s. They often didn't cry because their cries went unheard. Imagine that, crying silently in the shadows, desperately seeking attention, but never receiving it. It's a heartbreaking image, but it's also an important point of reflection. We're seeing a similar pattern today, albeit in a different context. Children might not be in institutions, but they can still feel isolated in a sea of digital interactions. The irony? They're connected more than ever, yet they can feel profoundly alone. Now, let's not forget about cultural frameworks. In collectivist societies, child-rearing is often a communal effort. Kids are raised in tight-knit communities where they experience a variety of attachments, not just from parents but also from extended family and neighbors. This collective approach fosters resilience. Kids learn to navigate social dynamics early on, building emotional intelligence that helps them later in life. But what about in more individualistic cultures? Here, parenting often emphasizes independence. While that can be beneficial, it can also lead to a lack of support during important developmental stages. Urbanization compounds this issue. Families are often scattered, and the traditional support systems can disappear. Kids grow up in nuclear families where both parents might be working, leading to stress and anxiety that children can sense even if they can't articulate. Now let's pivot to the role of interventions and therapies. For children who have faced early neglect, there are steps that can be taken to help them develop secure attachments even later in life. Programs focused on attachment-based therapies have shown promise. These interventions often emphasize the importance of fostering trust and emotional safety. An example is the Circle of Security program, which teaches parents to recognize their children's needs. It empowers caregivers to respond effectively, creating a secure base from which children can explore the world. The results? Children who learn to trust their caregivers are more likely to develop resilience and form healthy relationships. On the flip side, let's talk about the adults who faced trauma in childhood. Many of them might struggle with anxiety, depression, or personality disorders. But there's a silver lining: resilience. Some adults find ways to heal and build useful connections. They might turn to therapy, practice mindfulness, or engage in community activities that connection. Consider the story of a woman named Sarah. Growing up, she felt neglected, always longing for her parents' attention, which often went to their screens. As an adult, Sarah struggled with relationships. She feared abandonment, so she either pushed people away or became overly dependent. But through therapy, she learned to recognize these patterns and address her fears. She began to build secure relationships, fostering a sense of community that she had missed in her childhood. Yet, there's another layer to this narrative. The digital age has introduced new dynamics. Social media can both connect and isolate. Children today might have hundreds of friends online, but how many of those friendships translate to real-world support? The constant comparison on social media can lead to feelings of inadequacy, anxiety, and depression. Think about it. A child scrolling through perfectly curated images of peers having fun may feel like they're missing out. They might internalize a sense of worthlessness based on likes and shares. This can lead to emotional neglect, even if their home life seems stable. Moreover, the way children communicate has changed drastically. Texting and messaging can often replace face-to-face conversations. It's a double-edged sword. On one hand, they can connect with peers easily. On the other, they may miss out on the nuances of human interaction, the tone of voice, the warmth of a smile. Now, let's get a bit raw. The impact of digital modernity isn't just academic. It's visceral. We're witnessing a generation that might struggle to understand emotions fully. As children interact more with screens than with people, they may find it hard to read social cues. Imagine a child who can't interpret a frown or a sigh, missing out on the subtle emotions that form the foundation of relationships. But it's not all doom and gloom. There's room for hope. Parents and caregivers can take an active role in shaping these experiences. Setting boundaries on screen time and encouraging outdoor play can help. Engaging in family activities, like game nights or nature walks, fosters connection and helps create a nurturing environment. And let's not underestimate the power of storytelling. Sharing experiences, whether through books, films, or family discussions, can help children process their emotions and understand their place in the world. But here's the kicker. As we think about the future, we must consider how our societal structures impact attachment. The rise of urban living means that many families are isolated. The hustle and bustle of city life can lead to a disconnect, where children are left to navigate their emotional landscapes without guidance. In contrast, rural communities may have more of that collective child-rearing ethos. Imagine kids running freely in a neighborhood, where they know they'll be looked after by more than just their parents. That's the essence of community, an environment that nurtures resilience and emotional well-being. And what about when we think globally? Different cultures approach attachment and parenting in unique ways. In Japan, the concept of amai emphasizes a child's dependency on parents. This cultural norm fosters secure attachments, as children learn that it's not just okay to be vulnerable but important. As we dissect these dynamics, it's clear that we're living through a new period. Technology has reshaped our lives, but it's up to us to shape the emotional for our children. Now, let's shift gears and talk about solutions. First, education is key. Parents should be informed about attachment styles and how their interactions can shape their children's emotional health. Workshops and community programs that address these issues can provide valuable support. Second, parents can model healthy relationships. Children learn by example. By demonstrating effective communication and emotional expression, parents set the stage for their children to do the same. And here's a thought. What if schools incorporated emotional intelligence into their curricula? Teaching kids about feelings, empathy, And healthy relationships could lay the groundwork for a generation that values connection over comparison. Speaking of connection, let's not forget about the importance of friendships. Encouraging children to form connections with their peers is important. Playdates, group activities, and team sports can help them build those important social skills. But there's more. The role of therapy and interventions can't be overstated. For children who are struggling, seeking professional help can be a. Therapists can work with kids to help them develop coping strategies and healthy relationships. And what about the adults in the room? As we've seen, many adults carry the scars of childhood trauma. It's important for them to engage in their healing journey. Support groups, therapy, and community involvement can create pathways for recovery and resilience. Let's wrap this up with a stark reminder. The world has changed, and so have the dynamics of attachment. Digital modernity has reshaped how children connect and relate. But with intention, awareness, and community support, we can create environments that secure attachments and emotional resilience. So, next time you see a child glued to a screen, take a moment to think about what they might be missing. Consider how you can be part of the solution. How can you connections in your community? Because at the end of the day, it's all about building those relationships that last a lifetime. Now, just before we finish, if you found this discussion valuable, consider sharing it with someone who might benefit from it. We all need these conversations to a better understanding of emotional well-being in our communities. And remember, it's never too late to nurture those connections, whether it's with a child or within yourself. Let's keep this dialogue going. What are your thoughts on how modern technology impacts childhood attachment styles? I'd love to hear your experiences.